Let's go ahead and restart. So the final, let's see. So the final word that I had on the scalability of Scrum was just the illustration, right? So what I was trying to explain to you is that every team, in our case, we have 9 teams. So let's make it simpler, right? Let's say we have 6, one team from each department. We have 6 departments, and all of them have one team, okay? And all those teams have uh, to work on the same product or on the same project, okay? Let's say it is a company's level initiative, right? The project is at the company level, and all the teams are going to be working on the same project toward the same goal, same product goal, okay? And the 6 teams are going to be sending one representative, okay, to the Scrum of Scrum, which is like explain what the Scrum of Scrum is, and the meetings, what we do there, right? And that's going to allow those 3 teams that are on the team that are working on the same project to get together and handle and plan their dependencies. Now, this what this thing illustrates as well is that you can have multiple levels of Scrum. What I explained to you before was Scrum of Scrum, but then you can also have Scrum of Scrum and of Scrums. So you can have a team that has a representative, another team that has a representative, another team that has a representative. That's 3 people that do the Scrum of Scrum, handling dependency among themselves for those 3 Scrum teams. Now, you might have another level where all those groups of teams do have dependencies also indirectly on each other's. So that's why this Scrum of Scrum is going to also send one representative to another Scrum of Scrum meeting. Maybe that they hold, if they hold this Scrum of Scrum maybe once a week, they might hold the Scrum of Scrum once every 2 weeks, for example, right? For interest of time. And you can have as many as levels as you can, depending on, I said it here, the type of application, the team size, and the team dispersion. So what's the location of the teams? Okay, so it's possible, but the level where I limited myself to the example I gave you, not to really confuse you, was to the Scrum of Scrum. So you can also have multiple teams, right, doing the Scrum of Scrum and sending one representative each to the Scrum of Scrum to gather information, provide feedback, and help manage dependencies, okay, for the whole project. Okay, does that make sense? Question? That's the final slide. Okay, if you don't have any question, let me give you some questions now. Okay, let me give you some questions. So we're gonna go over a few quizzes just to get
I
the
have a
knowledge.
question.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, what's the role of a Scrum Master in an environment where there is a business analyst?
Okay, good question.
Yeah.
First of all, in Scrum, that tells me that they're not applying the Scrum process, at least not the way it should be. Okay, because in Scrum, there is no role that is related to the job. So there's no job role. Okay, we don't have a group of business analysts within the team. We don't have a group of QA engineers within the team. Everyone is called developer, even though some people can do tasks related to gathering and analyzing stories, a little more stuff like that. It depends on how the team organizes itself. Okay, so usually people are getting confused into, okay, we have our Scrum team. Now within our Scrum team, we maybe have 9 people in the dev team, and within the 9 people's team, they're saying we have 3 developers, we have 3 QA engineers, we have 3 business analysts. It doesn't work that way. We don't have job roles within Scrum. Everyone is a developer. It's part of the dev team, and everyone is doing any task that he's deciding to do to help building the product increment. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
in other words, people who are doing that are not applying the Scrum framework, at least not fully. They think they are, which is sometimes fine, especially when the company started their agile transformation, right? Because not everyone is going to understand how to do it from the first few months. It's going to take time, right? It's easy to understand, but it's very complex to implement. Okay, because you have to train people. They need to be in the right mindset to understand why we're doing that way, right? And how helpful it is for the team. Okay, so a lot of people initially they're coming from waterfall and they do have those models, right? Those roles, those job roles. They have BAs, they have QAs, they have developers, and all that, and they tend to bring it within the Agile or Scrum framework, right? Initially, is difficult to switch directly from the waterfall model to the Scrum model. Usually, they have some transition time where they start applying those principles, those Scrum principles, little by little. They get to understand it. They get to be comfortable with it, right? And the more they understand, the more they're shifting into fully being fully Scrum. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so they're functioning to the hybrid mode. That's how we call it. But the long term, those job roles do not exist into the Scrum framework. Okay. Any other question? Okay. So we're done with the slides. Let me go ahead and ask you questions as well now. Okay. Let me see. All right. So I'm just going to pull some, let's see, some of those quizzes for you. And let's see. Okay. Let's see. All right, let's start with, I think we did this yesterday. I'm not sure, but let's see. All right, give me a second. Let me pull that here. There we go. All right, so let me see. Let's go ahead and give the opportunity to everyone to speak. You guys can see my screen, right? Is it too small? Okay. All right, let's start with okay, from the left to the right. Okay, so question 0. Okay, the Scrum team consists of a number of roles. What are they? A, Scrum Master, product owner, design team, tech team. B, Scrum Master, product owner. Somebody has the answer already. Let's go ahead.
B.
Scrum Master, product owner, dev team. Good. Number 2, what is the optimal dev team size? 5 to 9, 3 to 7, 3 to 9.
C.
C.
Good. Number 3, which role is responsible among other teams for other things for maximizing the product value? A,
C.
B, or C? C.
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 Good job.
C.
Okay. Great. Let's move on to the next one. Closing this one. Which of the following statement is false? Here we go. We're coming back on this thing. The team is responsible for managing the product backlog. The product owner is responsible for managing the product backlog. The Scrum Master helps the product owner to find techniques for effective product backlog management. Which one is false?
A.
So the team is responsible for managing the product backlog?
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. Next one, which of the following is false? A, the product owner should consider others while prioritizing the product backlog. B, the Scrum is designed such that the senior stakeholders must make the final call on product decisions. C, the product owner's decisions must be respected by the organization.
B.
B, which one is false? Is B?
B.
B.
Okay, that's good. Next one, which of the following is not an essential action for a Scrum team? A, it must consist, again, is which of the following is not an essential action from the Scrum team? A, it must consist of a product owner, Scrum Master, and Dev team. B, Scrum teams deliver products iteratively and incrementally in sprints. C, Scrum teams must use software tools to be at their best. Which of the following is not an essential action? Not an essential action.
C.
C. C.
B.
All right. All right, we're done with this one. Good job. You guys are doing great. Next one. The dev team has to answer 3 questions during the daily Scrum. Which of the following statements is true about the approach to answering questions? A, the answers should focus on the sprint goal. B, they should totally cover everything they know they did during the previous day, even if it does not relate to the sprint goal. C, they should focus on problems that are outside the sprint goal just in case it matters.
A.
A.
Somebody said A or B?
A.
A. A.
A.
Okay, good job. Which of the following statements is true regarding the dev team? Okay, those are long ones. The dev team can consist of any role necessary to deliver the potential releasable increment. That's close to a question somebody asked a few minutes ago. The only exception is the testers who help the dev team but are part of the test team. B, and that's the tricky question, answer that already, so you should be good to answer this as well. The dev team can consist of any role necessary to deliver the potential releasable increment. The exception is the designers who are the only members of the Scrum team considered to be outside of the dev team. C, the dev team consists of any role necessary to deliver the potentially releasable increment. There is no sub. C?
C.
Good job. So that's what I was explaining a few seconds ago. I think Abdallah, and I don't know. I'm sorry, what's your name? I think you said Abdallah is your son's name.
Aisha. Yeah, Aisha. Yes, Aisha. Yeah.
Oh, Aisha. Okay. Okay.
My name is Aisha. Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Last one. You are the Scrum Master asks to advise on the size of the dev team. Which team size goes against the Scrum rules? Okay. Team size. Which one goes against the Scrum rules? A, 4, B, 7, C, 2.
A.
Which team size
C.
goes against the Scrum rules?
C.
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 Yeah. C, because we said that the dev team should be 3 to 9.
3 to 9, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We're moving faster than I thought. Good job. So next one, what is the purpose of a daily Scrum? A, for the Scrum Master to be aware of the plan for the next 24 hours. B, for the dev team to synchronize activities and create a plan for the next 24 hours. C, for the product owner to acquire an update of the plan for the next 24 hours. A, B, or C?
A.
B.
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 A.
A? I heard A, B, and C. So which one am I picking?
I said A.
Okay, you
A.
say A. For the Scrum Master to be able to
I'm
plan.
going
Cool,
with
cool.
B.
B? I think the answer is B.
I'm going with B.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the answer is B.
I go
So
with B too.
Because the Scrum Master and the product owner doesn't have to attend.
that's correct. Not only that, but they're not there to track the plan. The dev team is accountable for tracking their own progress, and the Scrum Master can just show the reports to everyone. If they're managing the Jira dashboard and stuff. But normally the team should be able to do it independently. And the Scrum Master doesn't have to attend the meeting, the daily stand-up meeting, I should say. Okay, so it's B. Next one, what is the purpose of the sprint review? A, for the Scrum team to show the product owner their progress. B, for the Scrum team and stakeholders to discuss what was done in the sprint. Attendees then collaborate on the next things that could be done to optimize value. C, for the Scrum Master to demo the progress to the product owner and stakeholders.
B.
I'll say A.
B.
B,
B.
A,
B.
I say A.
C.
A, B, or C. Okay,
We're
how many-
reviewing, so we have it's
yes,
B.
go ahead.
B.
B,
Because we're reviewing what we've done. We've done and delivered the increment already. So now we're reviewing what was done, and then we discuss about what was done right and what needs to be done to optimize.
right. B.
B. B.
Okay, that's exactly right. So this is for the Scrum team to show the product owner their progress. What progress? At the end of the sprint, we have the sprint review. The sprint review is not held in the middle of the sprint to show the progress. It shows you what you have done during the sprint, because it's at the end of the sprint that you're doing the sprint review, and you're demonstrating actually the feature that you develop, product increment that you have to work on. Okay, so the answer is B. Next one, you had a question, Jack? Okay. What is the purpose of the sprint retrospective? A, it is another opportunity for the dev team to demo the potentially releasable increment. B, it is an opportunity for the Scrum team to review how the sprint planning meeting should be conducted. C, it is an opportunity for the Scrum team to inspect itself and create a plan for improvement in the next sprint. A, B, or C?
C.
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 C? Okay.
Yep.
C.
Yes, definitely.
Somebody said B. B?
B.
It's C.
If not C, then it's B.
It's C.
I go with
C.
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 Yeah. The
Yeah.
B is definitely not correct, because and since somebody had that as the answer, let me just explain why. B says it is an opportunity for the Scrum team to review how the sprint planning meeting should be conducted. That's not the goal of the retrospective. The retrospective is toward reviewing the team's practice as a team, as a Scrum team. What did we do right during this sprint? What went well? What did not go well? And how we're addressing what did not go well. So it has nothing to do with sprint planning meeting and stuff like that. No, it's an introspection of the Scrum team on how they're doing and the process that they're following, et cetera, to make them work better in a more effective way. That's the goal of the retrospective. Okay, so that's why B is not correct. The retrospective doesn't have anything to do with the sprint planning. Okay. All right. I think we're done with this as well. Let's move on to the next one. What are the 5 Scrum events? A, the kickoff meeting, sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective. B, the sprint the sprint planning, the daily scrum, the sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. C, the sprint planning, the daily scrum, the product backlog grooming, and the sprint retrospective.
B.
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 Okay, that's correct. Anyone, because I'm not hearing anybody else.
B.
B.
That's correct. Okay, and we saw that before, and I was telling you, I think Jack, you're the one who asked the question. I was telling you, sometimes people are confusing events with ceremonies, right? And they omit to have the sprint as an event. The sprint itself is an event. But if they were asking about the meetings or the ceremonies in Scrum, then you wouldn't put the sprint. So that's why this thing doesn't have a sprint. It's already definitely incorrect. And there's no kickoff meeting either. It doesn't exist. Okay. Great job. So next one, what is the maximum length of the daily Scrum?
You're giving some clues because you're laughing at sometimes, so it helps.
All right, let me try to reframe myself, because those questions, some of them are, when you know the answer, it sounds stupid, right? It just sounds like it doesn't make sense at all. Those are tricky questions. All right, that's why it makes me smile. Okay, so what is the maximum length of a daily Scrum? A, 25 minutes. B, 15 minutes with allowance given for important discussions like a live productivity.
C.
15 minutes. C.
C.
All right, good job. So next one, the Scrum events are all compulsory. Otherwise, you are not doing Scrum. True or false?
False.
So it's false. So
True.
you don't have to do all the events to be Scrum.
No, it's B, because otherwise you're doing Agile, because we've seen that we have XP in Agile, we have Lean in Agile, we have some other options in Agile.
That's
But
true.
if we're doing Scrum, we need to do all those.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Okay. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah.
Please say that explanation again, Jack, please.
Go ahead.
I was
Jack.
just saying that in Agile, we have some other aspects. We have the XP aspect, we have the Lean, we have some mix of Agile, but if we're doing the Kanban exactly, if we're doing the Scrum, actually we need to do all those
events.
This process, yes, and those events.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
It is good. I think my mistake was around my understanding of the word compulsory.
Oh, okay, okay. That means mandatory, basically. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next set of questions. What is the maximum length of a sprint planning meeting? A, 4 hours for a 1 month sprint. For shorter sprints, the event is usually shorter. B, 4 hours, strictly time box, no matter the length of the sprint. C, 8 hours for a 1 month sprint. For shorter sprint, the event is usually shorter. A, B, or C?
Yeah.
Does that?
C.
8 hours.
C?
Yeah, I think that we said
I
that
go
the
C.
maximum
Yeah.
is 8
If
hours.
I remember well.
So anybody else thinks it's not C?
Let's go with C. And that's
C.
what
I think it's 8 hours a month.
That's correct. That's C.
That's my memory is right.
Yeah, that's C. All right. Which is the first event of a new sprint?
B.
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 Sprint planning.
Mhm.
Good job. So what's the minimum length of a sprint planning meeting? A, 15 minutes. B, 4 hours for a 1 month sprint. C, there's no minimum.
B.
C.
C.
C?
C.
Somebody said B.
I think
B?
it's B.
B?
C.
Yeah, I
I'll go
think
with
it's
B.
B.
I think it's B too.
I'll go with B.
As we said, it's time box. So most of these event has a set recommended maximum amount of time.
But we're asking about the minimum though. Is there any minimum? What are you saying?
Yeah,
There's a maximum?
we
Does
know
that
the
mean there's a
maximum,
minimum?
but no.
So if I'm telling you your meeting is 8
No.
hours
No,
maximum,
no
does that mean
minimum.
that
You're supposed to meet.
there we go. Right? So there's no minimum. right? The maximum
Those
is 8 hours
questions
for
need
one
to be
month.
read.
Mhm.
That's what I'm
To
saying.
read
Those are
it twice.
yes. So, and if you're taking the PSM, you're going to be facing questions like that. They're going to be mixing, words on 4 hours, 8 hours, but asking the question in a certain way and give you answers that are attractive to pick, but not necessarily correct. So yes, there's no minimum. We said all the events that we mentioned, we said a daily stand-up is 15-minute maximum. It doesn't mean that, and I was saying that you can have that done in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, but it shouldn't go over 15. No minimum. Same thing for the retrospective, the sprint planning, the sprint reviews. Okay. All right. Makes sense for everyone? Good?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So we're done with this, and we got 4 more to go, probably 12 questions. All right, which one answer is the purpose of the sprint burn down chart? 1 or A, monitoring progress toward the sprint goal. B, showing who is not performing in the team. C, counting the number of bugs in the product. A, B, or C?
A.
A.
All right, that's obvious. That one, no question, right? Next one, which one artifact should be prioritized by the product owner, which is especially important prior to the sprint planning? A, the sprint backlog. B, the product backlog. C, the task list. A, B, or C?
A.
Which one artifact should be prioritized by the product owner? You said
I
B.
think it's
A.
A. The sprint backlog.
Go with B.
B. B.
It's B, right? This is a product backlog.
Yep. B.
Right? The sprint backlog is made of items that are coming from the product backlog that are managed by the product owner, right? The product owner is the one who owns the product backlog. And I told you the other day that no one is modifying or adding things to the product backlog, without the approval and the knowledge of the product owner. The product owner is the one who owns the product backlog. Okay, that's the only artifact that he's the owner of and the manager of, okay? So which one artifact should be prioritized by the product owner is the product backlog. Okay, next one, which of the following is true? A, the increment is the sum of all the product backlog items completed during the sprint. Now remember, I also emphasize this many times. What is the definition of a product backlog, a sprint backlog, and an increment? So which one is true? The increment is the sum of all the product backlog items completed during the sprint. B, the increment is the output of the sprint, not including the sum of the output of previous sprints. C, the increment is the output at the end of the project.
A.
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 So
B.
so the increment is the sum of all.
B.
This is one tough question too, right? Let me repeat. So
It's tricky.
okay, let me go over the first one. Okay, let me go over the first option. Okay, I'm running out of time. Hopefully, you're gonna have to complete that in 10 minutes. But okay, so the first one is the increment is the sum of all the product backlog items completed in the sprint. That's not correct, right? Because the increment is the sum of all the product backlog items completed before and during the sprint. That's the increment.
Correct.
Is the output of the sprint, not including the sum of the output of previously. That's incorrect because it does include it. Right? Which one is true? And completed during the sprint. Increment output of the sprint, not including the sum of all the output. The increment is the output at the end of the project. That's also is not correct. But hang on, some completed during the sprint. The sum of the product backlog items. Speed. This looks like more the answer when I look at the other ones now. The increment is the output of the end of the project. That's incorrect. This is incorrect, and this probably is correct, but it's not said the right way, basically.
Yes, I agree. None of them are correctly placed because the product backlog actually makes it not really true.
Yeah. So yeah, the A is the closest to the answer, but the question is actually not said incorrectly. So if you eliminate the wrong answers, you're probably going to have the right one, because this is wrong and this is wrong.
Way to go.
Right? All right. We're done with that. I think let's move on to. Okay. What are the 3 Scrum artifacts? Artifacts. That is A, product backlog, task
E.
board increment. B, burn down chart, sprint backlog increment. C, product backlog, sprint backlog increment.
C.
Good job. That's obvious. So next one, who's responsible for the product backlog, including its content, availability, and ordering? The whole team. A, B, the product owner.
You put up.
C, the Scrum Master.
Product owner.
Good job. Next one, which are usually the most detailed items in the product backlog? A, lower order product backlog items. Remember the product backlog iceberg. A, lower order product backlog items are usually clearer and more detailed than higher ordered ones. B, there's no difference. All items are clear as detailed as each other. C, higher order product backlog items are usually clearer and more detailed than the lower ordered ones. A, B, or C?
I think A.
Lower ordered product backlog items are usually clearer.
Oh, I go.
It's tricky.
I go with B.
There's no difference. No, B is definitely not the answer. It should be a difference.
Okay, I go with C then.
C, but without.
I'll go with A. I'll go with A. Considering that the higher ordered one, it's probably the. I don't know. Maybe look at it as a big block or a task that should be broken down. So I consider the lower ordered one as something that has been simply put, and therefore it's clearer.
What are the questions?
Maybe this is gonna help.
Yeah.
You see, so this is exactly a question that is in relation with the product backlog iceberg. So you do have. I was explaining that yesterday. Those items that are on the top are having the highest priority, and they are the ones that are the most detailed, because those are the ones that we're refining first. Since we need to work them, we need to work on them first in the most current sprint, right? So we need to detail them and break them down into smaller items as soon as possible. So that's why they're going to emerge at the top with smaller elements, because it's broken down, right? And the more we go through the sprint, those that are also of a higher priority are going to merge, be broken down, and go to the top and work in the sprint. Basically, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So it means that, what's the answer?
C.
All right, high order product backlog items are usually clearer and more details than lower order ones. Okay, so that's it. All right, we're done with this. Let's go to the next one. Okay, who can change the sprint backlog during the sprint? A, the product owner. B, the dev team or the Scrum Master. C, the dev team.
A.
We're talking about the sprint backlog though.
A.
Oh, the dev team.
What?
But the backlog can only be changed by the product owner.
Which backlog?
The product backlog.
The product backlog.
This one is the sprint backlog.
Oh.
Correct.
This one is the sprint backlog. I think the dev team can access that.
I'll go with B.
B. So the dev team
Isn't
or
it
the
the
Scrum
final
Master?
decision taken by the product owner?
Dev team is the one.
A, B, or C?
C.
All right, so that's the sprint. That's the sprint backlog. Again, the sprint backlog is owned by the dev team, because that's all the product backlog items that they plan to work on during the sprint. That's part of the sprint backlog, and nobody can change that. We said it yesterday. That nobody can make any change to that if it's gonna impact the delivery of the product increment or mess up the sprint goal. So the dev team is owning the sprint backlog. Nobody tell them how much work they take, right? They just tell the product owners, telling them the priority. What is the priority? Okay, they now decide we can take, based on our capacity, this, that. Based on our capacity and the complexity of the stories, we can take this, that. That's it. And they do the work. So nobody else can mess up with changing anything in the sprint backlog unless the dev team is approving or who's actually doing that. So the sprint backlog is owned by the dev team. The product backlog is owned by the product owner. Okay, so that's the difference. That's why I was asking you, we talking about the sprint backlog or the product backlog. In this case, it's the sprint backlog. Okay, next one. What's the purpose of the definition of done? A, it gives the dev team a concise explanation of when the story is complete. B, it gives the Scrum team a way to assess when work is complete on the product increment. C, it gives the Scrum team a shared understanding of when the sprint is complete. B.
B.
C.
B.
C, it gives the Scrum team a shared understanding of when the sprint is complete. Is it true? The sprint is complete?
C.
Complete. Okay. No. Complete.
No.
B.
B.
No,
B.
you don't have. Yeah, B.
Yeah.
Because they are and I agree. Yeah.
B.
The definition of done is this is how we will consider the work done. So if we complete it, we use the definition of done to assess that this is matching our definition of done. So that's why I'll say B.
Anybody agree with that or disagrees with that?
B.
I go with that.
B. Okay. It gives the Scrum team a way to assess when work is complete on the product increment. That's good. Okay, it's B. Who is responsible for helping the Scrum team and related parties to increase the transparency of the artifacts? A, the Scrum Master. B, the product owner. C, the senior stakeholders.
A.
Definitely not C. I think the Scrum Master he's a coach of the team. He helps them.
He's a servant. Team servant.
He's a servant. The servant leader.
That's correct. Okay, so this is done for we have the last one to go. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be breaking for 5 minutes. We disconnect and then we join, we finish this up, and then we conclude the training session. If you have any additional question on the exam and all that, we're going to talk about that when we join. Okay, so let's join back at
How long is the break?
5 minutes. So let's join back at 8:03 Eastern time.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.